Hello everyone. Right, okay, so today the first thing you should have done is you should have completed the BBC bite-sized task on modal verbs, because you'll need to know all about them to complete the task today. I'm going to go over that in a minute. First things though, I'm just going to read a short bit more of this book, little bit more of this book. Okay, so when we finished off last time, Johnny was nervous to let Elizabeth and her family see that he had been a stowaway on the Titanic, so he's working below the decks, shoveling coal to make the ship move. Okay, so he said, the last thing he said was, "The truth is that I still believe they would think badly of me for stowing away as I had. I decided that it would be better to wait until we got to New York, and then I'd just walk up to them all and surprise them on the quayside. I'd tell them then and there that I'd taken Elizabeth's advice and come to live in America, in the land of the free. They'd never need to know I stowed away. I was half sleeping, half dreaming in my bunk, dreaming that Caspar was yowling at me, trying to wake me. We were in some kind of danger, and he was trying to warn me. Then it happened. The ship suddenly shuddered and shook. I sat up. Right away it felt to me like some kind of a collision, and I could tell it had happened on the starboard side. A long silence followed. Then I heard a great rushing and roaring of escaping steam like a death rattle. I knew that something had gone terribly wrong, that the ship had been wounded. The engines had stopped. Half a dozen of us got dressed at once and rushed up to the third deck, the boat deck. We all expected to see the ship we had collided with, because that was what we thought had happened. But we could see nothing, no ship, nothing but the stars, and an empty sea all around. There was no one else on deck except us. It was as if no one else had felt it, as if it had all been a bad dream. No one else had woken, so it followed that nothing had happened. I was almost beginning to believe I had imagined the whole thing, when I saw little Mitch come rushing along the deck towards us, carrying something in both hands. It was a huge piece of ice, shaped like a giant tooth, jagged and sharp. There's Mitch with the ice. He was shouting the same thing over and over again, but I couldn't understand him. None of us could. Then one of the other stokers said it. "Iceberg! It's off an iceberg! We've only gone and hit a flaming iceberg!" Oh my goodness. Look at the size of that iceberg there. Well, that's all we're going to read for today. Now, your task today is you are going to create a risk assessment for icebergs. Now, a risk assessment is a piece of paper that determines a form, really, that determines how dangerous something is and what about it is dangerous. So whenever we go on a school trip, I have to create a risk assessment of the whole trip and determine any moments where we could be in danger and what I would have to do if you were in danger. Okay, so anything that could go wrong, it basically just lists that and what you can do to stop it going wrong. Okay, so what we need modal verbs. So I've uploaded a fact sheet on icebergs. So you're going to read the fact sheet so you know exactly what icebergs are. And then you're going to create a risk assessment for ships that are sailing across the sea. So you need to know everything that could go wrong when a ship sails past an iceberg, okay? So if you're talking about something that could go wrong, you're going to be using possibility modal verbs. So remember when we talked about verbs having possibilities and certainties, okay? So should, could, might, they're possibilities, okay? Should is a little bit more certain, okay? Now certain ones, we've got will, has, does, okay? So it depends how certain it is. So you could say, if the ship crashed into the iceberg, it will let water into the ship, okay? I'm not going to give away too much, okay? However, let's just talk about what happened. So the Titanic sank near Newfoundland in 1912. So Newfoundland's like near Canada, okay? So the United States and 12 other countries formed the International Ice Patrol to warn ships of icebergs in the North Atlantic. So they keep track of where the icebergs are so that they can let ships know whereabout not to go near, okay? Today, we're going to research what icebergs are and create a risk assessment report, okay? So I've written a short one that I'll read out to you now, okay? Just to give you an idea of what you should be writing. So risk assessments are in bullet points, okay? Each bullet point is one risk, okay? And you're explaining that risk and what the consequences of that risk could be, okay? So I've put, icebergs are pieces of ice that were created by water on land. They were formed when chunks of ice broke off from glaciers, ice shelves, or a larger iceberg. The ice will have melted when the warmer air melts the snow around, causing chunks of ice to have broken off. All the necessary precautions should be taken to traverse around an iceberg, as they could pose a danger to ships travelling the North Atlantic. Okay? Now, I've been a little bit vague there. I want you to be a little bit more specific about what could happen. What is the danger? Okay, so first of all, you need to know everything there is to know about icebergs, which is on the fact sheet, and you can do a little bit of research by yourself if you want to, because they are very interesting, okay? The larger part of an iceberg is actually underwater, and then the top bit is smaller, so they are very interesting. So I'll put the fact sheet below, and I'll see if I can find a video about them as well, and I'll put that below as well. And then you're going to make a risk assessment, okay? Good luck, and I look forward to reading them all.